Do you guys remember that just hours after the Pentagon announced the killing of Iranian Major General Qasem Soleimani in January, World War III broke out trending all over social media? Here at Real on Real Issues, the show that examines a modern issue through the lens of an old movie, we remember. Thankfully, World War III didn't happen, though plenty else did. Regardless, I'd like you to keep that in mind as we jump into our story of the week. President Trump blames China for the coronavirus and promised Beijing would pay a big price for what they've done to the world. While this promise is ominous, it's likely a reference to trade. The Trump administration has slapped hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs on Chinese goods. They have to pay us to distribute their products. Beyond that, a trade deal signed in January threatens even more tariffs if China doesn't buy upwards of $200 million in US goods and services over the next 2 years. While that's been happening, China has been advancing its territorial claims in areas surrounding Japan, Taiwan, and South Korea, all places where the US is committed militarily. Concurrently, the Chinese army has released videos touting their ability to take on the US, while state media has run a propaganda campaign warning Washington not to test China's might. Yet, the Trump administration continues to test it. In the vice presidential debate, Mike Pence attacked Beijing for their handling of the pandemic. He claimed China and the World Health Organization did not play straight with the American people. Such comments are clearly meant to divert blame from the US's own mishandling of the pandemic, which, as you may know, has hit America worse than any other country. Governments closer by location to China were exposed to the pandemic earlier, reacted faster, and handled infections better. Taiwan and Vietnam, as examples, are both now largely virus-free. While China initially minimized the dangers of the virus and censored warnings from doctors until it was too late to stop it, they've since successfully stamped out new waves and controlled infections nationwide. Remember when I told you to keep in mind that World War III trended in January? Seems like less of a meme now than it did then, huh? We've all gone through so much this year, but the hope that the future will be better drives us forward. We need to remember that based on our choices in this presidential election, the future could get even worse. Speaking of horrible futures, we're going to examine a potential one in Starship Troopers, our movie of the week. Let's watch a trailer.
In every age, there is a cause worth fighting for. But in the future, the greatest threat to our survival will not be man at all.
Here it comes! Incoming!
Kill them all! Starship Troopers.
In Starship Troopers, 1997, humans in a fascist militaristic future wage war with giant alien bugs. Note the word fascist in that description. The film received mostly negative reviews from critics upon release for its perceived fascist undertones, but it's grown to become a praised political satire. The heroes of Starship Troopers are violent, militaristic drones who are hell-bent on killing the alien bugs who had the gall to fight back when humans tried to colonize their homeworld. The humans struck first, but now the bugs will pay big for what they've done to the world. We now join our guest of the week, E4 Elizabeth Rasenga, at the Real on Real Issues table to discuss our story and film of the week further. Thank you for joining us, Elizabeth.
Of course, thanks for having me.
Okay, so the first thing I want to ask you about is your service. Can you tell us a little bit about it?
Okay, so I did 5 years in the Navy and I did various things ranging from catapult maintenance, which the catapults launch the jets from the flight deck. And then I also did calibration on various equipment and I did security. So I did a little bit of everything.
That's really interesting. But let's look at the film. What did you think of it?
I mean, some of the action and stuff, it was kind of cool and whatnot. And the acting in general was really cheesy. I thought it was okay.
Well, there was this dissonance in the first and second half of the film that I thought was really interesting. The movie got panned by critics when it came out, who I think judged it as your run-of-the-mill action sci-fi movie. And I could see why, but this first half, it's sort of like an episode of like Dawson's Creek. You got these overly attractive teenage 30-year-olds and we're going to be friends forever. And then it's the bloodiest action movie I've ever seen in the back half. It brings up an interesting question that I was pondering while I was watching it. Who do you think the villains are in this movie?
So I would say that the director, like, and just the makers of this movie in general would want you to believe that it's the bugs that are the villain. But when you really think about it, the bugs are just defending themselves. So, I mean, it depends on which way you're looking at it, but I'd say it's more so the humans.
Paul Verhoeven, the director, when I was researching into him, he grew up in Nazi-occupied Netherlands. And I think he is very much painting a picture of the humans as the antagonists, the bad guys. You look at the IMDb summary of this film, it very pointedly describes this as a fascistic future, big F word. And yeah, if you look at it, it's terrible. The bugs didn't do anything, but the humans, they're so violent. You watch Johnny Rico turn into just this screaming animal.
Come on, you apes! You wanna live forever!
Ooh, what I loved is in that first half of the movie, you don't encounter a single adult who isn't missing a limb.
Yep. Or, well, I'm thinking of that one scene in particular when they're all going up to the recruiter and they're telling him what their jobs are going to be. And he tells them infantry. And the guy says to him that, like, that's how I got like this. And he has no legs and one arm.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a commentary on the effects of violence. But even if you're making the connection to the Nazis, there's imagery there. The flag of the Federation is a big eagle that is very nationalist party. I think Paul Verhoeven very much purposely cast pretty people. You got a lot of blondes, Argentinian blondes. They live in Buenos Aires. It's interesting. 5 years, you said, so you had a lot of experience. Did any of the experience of Johnny Rico and company hold true to you?
I'd say the only thing that rung true was the camaraderie, like the happy times that they all shared together. But other than that, none of it rang true.
That's fantastic. You keep in contact with a lot of people you served with?
I keep in touch with a few of them. Actually, someone that I was in boot camp with, she's going to be my maid of honor at my wedding.
Oh, that's awesome.
Mhm.
So all in all, you made friends. Was it a positive experience?
Some of it was positive, some of it wasn't. I'd say that there's still a lot of, like, even though women have been allowed in the military for a while now, there's still a lot of sexism. There's a lot of sexual harassment and just constant locker room talk that you can't really escape.
Oh, that's terrible. I think an interesting thing about this movie is this almost satirical, fetishistic equality in the sexes serving. You saw they all showered together. That
Yeah,
it was just an odd thing to look at, and that's terrible to even think. So you can't relate to the movie too much from the interior level. Now, this is a hard question, and I don't want to railroad you with this one, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Who do you think is responsible for the pandemic?
I think for it being such a major, like, world event, I don't think there's any one person that could be blamed. But if we're going to blame like a group of people, I'd say government officials for sure. Because they knew ahead of time, they could have done something. But then I kind of look at it from a point of view, well, who's to say that they realized how serious it was? Maybe at the time they thought it was okay, but I'd say government officials would be to blame for it becoming bigger than it ever should have become.
Well, that's a refreshingly balanced and intelligent opinion. But I'm gonna push a little further. Okay, we can't blame a single individual. How about on a national level? Can we blame a country? Is there any part of the world we should be pointing fingers to?
No, I think that's ridiculous to try and point blame on a single country.
That I like that answer. So it's gonna roll into one of the more important questions I want to get to. You have a lot of experience in the military. You're civic minded. In your experience, will those enlisted bother to question their orders if we say end up in a conflict with a country without a good reason to be?
I mean, from my personal experience in the military, people will definitely question it because I've questioned orders that were given to me, and I've seen those around me question orders that were given to them. So I have complete faith that people will definitely stand their ground and, you know, raise questions to their leaders.
That's really refreshing to hear. Okay, well, first off, I gotta thank you because the entire premise of our show here is the anxiety that the current times causes, and there's plenty of them. And I gotta be real, our story of the week and even our movie of the week made me really anxious. This view of the military that Starship Troopers perpetrates is, well, it's overwhelmingly negative and it's overwhelmingly nihilistic, but well, everything you have said has sort of steered me towards the opposite direction, which is comforting to hear due to the direction reality is going. The question we like to ask at the end of every episode is, what can we learn from the film of the week? And based on your answers, I have my opinion, but I'm going to let you go first.
I would say that the movie is not accurate of what the military is actually like at all. Like, it couldn't be any more far off. I mean, they just act like anyone in the military, like, we're just a bunch of killing machines, and it's not like that at all.
That is fantastic to hear. I love it. Lesson of the week, Starship Troopers is bullshit.
Yes, definitely bullshit.
Bullshit. The last thing I'd like to do on this episode of Real on Real Issues is thank our brothers and sisters in uniform. Their service to our country is more than appreciated and should never be forgotten. It's also worth remembering that though our country is in a bad place right now, there is still merit in patriotism, which comes in many forms in America. We can and should fight for what our country could be, whether it's on foreign soil or right here at home in the voting booths. But to do that, we have to stay informed and stay active. So thanks for tuning in, and stay sane out there.